Good morning. This is Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. It is the 11th day of June 2025. My name is Ann Odida. Good to have you on board.
Yes, my name is Freddy Ndumule. Na siku zinaenda kweli kweli. Tukiangazia magazeti leo tunasema nini?
The Standard, tortured, strangled.
Yes, still on a black background.
Only story on the front page.
Walimtesa Ojwang.
Taifa
leo.
Daily Nation, police cover up.
Yes, there's also a very interesting story about Samido. We'll come to that later. Ojwang strangled as Raila MPs demand quick probe. Hata wangeachia tu hapa Ojwang strangled. Hii ingine ni
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
FIFA Daily, how Gen Z could be kingmakers in 2027 contest. Hapo Ojwang ako mentioned hapo juu.
Right. 3 Gulf oil giants earn 1.5 trillion shillings in G2G fuel deal. Government to government ilikuwa na maneno.
Yeah.
I tell you. That's a business daily.
All right.
For State of the Nation, these members of Parliament, Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, Didmas Barasa, MP Kimilili, and Nabina Mwera, MP Lugari constituency, will be in studio to discuss the headlines. Of course, the big discussion still remains that very unfortunate death of Albert Ojwang while in police custody.
Yes. Tukivuka boda.
Hapo tutavuka boga.
All right, tukivuka boda. Uganda Daily Monitor and Nation protests. Senseless, they ask. Motorists and transport operators say the new express penalty scheme will create more road-related problems that it intends to solve because of ambiguity on implementation and exorbitant fines. Now, a lot is happening here. Hizi ni regions in Uganda. Walisema if you go a certain limit, speed limit, you pay a fine of 75 million shillings?
Their money.
Their money. Yenye tukasema could be 10,000 here.
Ukipita 30 kph. But I think they're trying to say no in different languages. So igiriso, waire, we have refused. Walobele, wamesema tulobie, wamekataa. Turanze, Wakwero, Nye Chamit Itua, Wadegi. I'm sure you might meet something closer to what you understand here.
We have refused. That is all I understand. We have refused.
So clearly the nation has refused. Dio Maneno express penalty scheme. Do you think it should come to Kenya? Watu ya matatu wote wangekuwa ndani.
Kila mtu wangekuwa ndani.
Watu ya matatu wote wangekuwa ndani. Kwanza wale wa Kiambu Road.
Kiambu Road wamesi kushinda Mombasa Road?
Mombasa Road is much better. Kiambu Road is just a mess.
All right.
But in Uganda, wamesema no.
Other stories here. Strike over pay rise splits. Arts teachers, no alarm over COVID, says government. On the top strip, the sector is eating big in 2025-2026 matters budget.
Yes.
They say Finance Minister Matia Kasaija will read the national budget tomorrow, detailing government's priority areas. Hata sisi yetu ni kesho.
Kesho. Hata Tanzania, kesho.
Yes. So East Africa, tomorrow is the day. Yeah. Inside the legal battle for control of Kiwanuka Empire, matters business, and that's the Daily Monitor.
Right. Staying in Uganda, same story, uproar as traffic fines start to bite. Is that new system? Motorists protest 30-kilometer speed limit and cumulative penalties. So wanasema tu wewe ruka, pita hiyo 30 kilometers, pita tu, tunakutumia bill at the end of the month in millions of Ugandan shillings. Wamesema hapana, can never happen. Can never happen. A lot of uproar there. Ikikuja Kenya hii mutalia. Na kama kawaida kwa New Vision lazima tukuwe na picha ya Yoweri Kaguta Museveni akisalamia mtu. Leo tunamuona Museveni na First Lady wakirenew national identity cards. Kwa hii gazeti tu lazima kukuwe na Museveni hapo.
Ama ni yake.
Akisalamia ng'ombe, akikata ndizi, leo at least anapata ID mpya. Yes. Right. Postbank makes 35.4 billion shilling profit set to rebrand. Postbank unajua pia ilikuwa Kenya, sijui kama bado iko. But ya Uganda wata rebrand. It was on page 4. Armed thugs kidnap, murder NGO finance boss. So similar things about what's happening in Kenya. Something similar happening in Tanzania. in Uganda. Tanzania sasa, it's where it's getting interesting. Matters politics.
Gazeti la Mwananchi Tanzania, Chadema yapigwa pini yalia hujuma. Mahakama Kuu yasitisha shughuli zote za chama kusubiri uamuzi wa kesi ya viongozi wake wa zamani. Heche aitisha kikao cha dharura, wadai ni njama za kukihujumu, wataja maeneo yanayolengwa. Taarifa ya Chadema ni kwamba uamuzi umechochewa zaidi na shinikizo la kisiasa badala ya msingi ya kisheria au haki. Chadema inachukulia hatua hizi kama ishara hatari za kuporomoka kwa demokrasia nchini Tanzania.
Kumbuke ni miezi mingapi? Miezi mitatu kabla ya uchaguzi.
October?
Yes. It's equivalent of burning ODM in Kenya. You say now there's a case in court, so ODM is banned from taking part in any political activity until that case is determined. Cases in Kenya can actually take even 6 months. So I don't know what about Tanzania.
Yeah.
So Chadema could very easily find themselves not being able to take part in the elections. Chezeni tu.
Well, siri nyuma ya gawio la shilingi trilioni 1 shilingi ya Tanzania, anasema ni fedha ilizovuna serikali kutokana na uwekezaji wake kwenye mashirika taasisi, uwekezaji bandarini, Airtel, NMB waibeba. Rais Samia atoa angalizo kwa watendaji na mashirika mzigo. Minyukano yashika kasi mikutano ya Chadema na CCM, na kule juni anguko la vyama kongwe kuibuka kwa vichanga. Masala ya siasa leo imejaa sana katika front page hii. Na Lea Hoi,
hata hii ni siasa tu pia.
Yes. Lea Hoi, hii ni chama cha CWT, vigogo wapya wabebeshwa mambo haya. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 5 gazeti la Mwananchi.
Staying in Tanzania, still political headlines there. Court holds Chadema political operations. The High Court yesterday issued a temporary injunction barring the opposition Chadema, which is a main opposition party there, from conducting political activities until a substantive case over the party's resource distribution is heard and determined. Remember, their leader Tundu Lissu bado ako behind bars. Kesi bado inaendelea. Alafu chama imeambiwa hata hizo kazi zingine msifanye. The story is on page 3. Nakwambia kwa jirani
kuna mambo.
Pale juu, what Tanzania should do to stem road carnage. Na meka picha za malori zinaanguka tu kila mahali. Poof. Hapa chini, Vodacom Tanzania marks 25 years with renewed drive for financial inclusion. And finally, debt burden. You know, they rarely talk about the debt burden in Tanzania. Samia banks on public enterprises contribution. 1.03 trillion. That's this is what she received yesterday from dividends and contributions from state-owned enterprises. Mwishowe pale, former slave trade route set to boost cultural tourism. Pale chini, very bottom strip of the Citizen. So these are the stories making headlines in the region.
All right, let's take a look at the weather situation in the country.
Mawingu ya kisiasa yaendelea kutanda kule Tanzania, lakini mawingu ya kawaida ya mvua hakuna. Mawingu mengi yako kule Central African Republic, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, the western part. Huku kwetu ni kama inapungua, but there was this system on the border of between Ethiopia and South Sudan. Bado iko. So let's come back home and take a look at some of the areas. We start off with Turkana. 26 degrees Celsius, clear with periodic clouds. Promises to be a fairly warm day, highs of 35 degrees. And in as far as precipitation is concerned, hakuna mvua huko.
Hata kidogo.
Yes.
Malindi, 24 degrees, feels like 27 as we speak. Light rain expected today. It's actually raining in Malindi. Highs of 27, precipitation here, 6.1 millimeters. Mtapumua tu at around 11 a.m. Kidogo tu
alafu endelea kwa mvua.
Yes.
In the Rift Valley, a bit chilly in Eldoret, 13 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. Promises to get as high as 24 degrees, which is comfortable weather for that area. No chance of rain at all in Eldoret.
All right. Tukienda kule kwetu kuna jua. 18 degrees, feels like 20, a cloudy day, highs of 28.
I don't know why they say it's partly cloudy, because angalia vile jua itawaka kutoka 11 mpaka ile masaa ya around 3.
Yes.
Proper sun.
Actually, it's partly cloudy, kweli. Yes. Mimi nimesema vibaya. Precipitation 0.5 millimeters. Hapa
hakuna mvua, forget about it. In Nairobi, it is chilly this morning. Hey, by the way, kuna kabaridi, kijibaridi, cha asubuhi. 14 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy. Highs of 24 degrees. Kidogo kunaweza kuwa na precipitation. Kidogo, 1.4 millimeters, not so bad for the city.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the traffic situation. 17 minutes past the top of the hour. Naipeleka mbio sana.
Sana. Ni kama vile Chadema wanapeleka mbio. So the major tributaries, yesterday there was a very nasty accident here along Kiambu Road, and it really caused a lot of traffic in the morning.
Yesterday and Monday?
Was it Monday? It was Monday, not yesterday, yes. But you can see most of the tributaries into town are looking good. Pale kawaida kama Pangani interchange hapo unajua tu lazima kukue hivyo. Hakuna kitu mpya hapo tunasema. But this is new. If you're using Outer Ring Road heading towards Allsops, there's a long stretch hapo kushapita Kiamaiko Market kuendelea hivyo. If you can avoid that stretch of road heading to Allsops from areas around Huruma, Kiamaiko, hapo ujue kuna shida, utachelewa. And this way inaleta shida sana, especially those ones who are hoping to get to town through that route. Mama Lucy Kibaki hakuna shida. There's a stretch pale pipeline, matatu zinabeba watu. Jogoo Road at Makadara, it's building up. You can already see that stretch. Nothing much to report when you come to City Stadium roundabout. Haile Selassie Avenue, a bit slow this morning, so nothing there. Lakini expressway upande hii leo naona ni kama kuna shida. Pale kwa the main entrance into the expressway, right opposite Lion Place. Hapo ni kama watu wanang'ang'ana kuingia after ABC Place. Kuingia kwa expressway ndio wakuja upande ingine ya town wakafanye kazi. Wale watu wa working from home, hao wako tu sawa. Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
It is only when we take chances that our lives improve. The initial and the most difficult risk we need to take is to become honest.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. All right, we start off with the Standard, tortured, strangled.
The story inaendelea kuumiza watu wengi. Every time I read this headline, I'm feeling some form of pain, and I don't like it.
They just opposed it with the headline they had on Monday. Killed by police. Lakini jana, apparently he was tortured and strangled. And that was according to the pathologist, Dr. Bernard Media. Now, the Standard says, senseless murder. The police tried to spin a crude tale about the death of blogger and teacher Albert Ojwang, and they got it spectacularly wrong. Through their spokesperson, they claimed Ojwang fatally hit his head against a wall inside a police cell. But the truth is far more harrowing and damning. The 31-year-old did not die by accident. He was tortured, he was strangled, and when his lifeless body was eventually carted off to Mbagathi Hospital, it was a mere formality. An attempt to cloak a cold-blooded murder in official procedure. As the President and his Interior Cabinet Secretary avert their gaze and pray for the storm to pass, the gravity of the crime deepens.
And I think the President or the government might have hoped that the appointment of the new IBC commissioners would probably occupy the front pages. It came a bit too late and no one is interested right now. IBC, who's talking about IBC? This is the biggest story. In fact, hata ukifungua huku ndani in the inside pages, no one is talking about IBC anywhere. Actually, Samido is getting space. IBC hata kama waliekwa jana, hiyo tutaisoma kwa gazeti ya kesho.
Now, Dr. Bernard Media said yesterday, this is the pathologist, we found that there were serious injuries to the head. There were also features of neck compression and multiple soft tissue injuries spread all over the body. The National Police Service confirms that Albert Omondi Ojwang was lawfully arrested by DCI detectives for false publication and placed in custody. While in custody, the suspect sustained head injuries after hitting his head against the cell wall. That is what the National Police Service said. Apparently, he was tortured and strangled.
Whoever came up with very initial police statements.
That's a very bad lie.
Nafikiri hata ukijaribu kusoma hata filmmaking kuna vitu zingine hata cartoon haikuangi. Even a cartoon cannot work like that. Unaenda unajigonga kichwa kwa ukuta hadi unakufa. Please.
And you know, people are actually saying it's good that the father mentioned Lagat's name, because then we would not have been here today. Na kwa hapa ndani ya The Standard anasema, give me answers. Ojwang's father tells DIG Lagat. Meshak Opio, the father of Albert Ojwang, who died in police custody, now wants Deputy Inspector General of Police Eli Lagat to give answers surrounding his son's death. Anasema, I handed him over to you through the people that you sent to arrest him. He said, I need you to tell me why you killed my son. What sin did he commit to warrant death? Did you see he carried his title deed to Nairobi as exchange?
He was hoping that in case it's a case that has to go to court and will require bail or bond, he could use that title deed. Kambo now it's no longer applicable.
Yeah.
The guy is gone. How sad.
Okay. They say Ruto, Murkomen remain mum as autopsy shows Ojwang killed.
Yes.
They haven't said anything.
Forget even about the president. The CS in charge of Interior has remained quiet about something this big.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the inside pages, still on police matters, one Samido amekuwa declared a deserter and he is facing arrest over one-term row. Alafu amepigwa picha hapo ya high cousins. Hata Samido sometimes. A story there is on page 3. Police declare Samido a deserter and faces arrest over one-term row. Remember, he's a police officer.
Yes.
So he's still under the force or the service.
All right, that's The Standard.
Walimtesa Ojwang ni habari ile ile na imepewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Taifa Leo. Wanasema Daktari Bernard Media na wanapatholojia waliowakilisha familia waafikiana kifo cha mwalimu kilitokana na mateso. Ripoti ya upasuaji iliyofanyiwa maiti ya mwalimu na bloga Albert Ojwang imebaini kwamba alipigwa vibaya kabla ya kufariki, huku mwanapatholojia wa serikali akisema mwathiriwa hakujiua kwa kujigonga ukutani jinsi polisi walivyodai. Now you see now these pathologists both from the government side and the family side are in agreement that this was as a result of torture. Ndio babake mzazi pale kwenye kurasa wa mbele, and you just feel for the guy.
Yes.
This was his only son. And you wonder, really, did they really have to, was it necessary to kill him? Was it? Vile unaweza uwa mende. Vidokezo zaidi, Mutunga Karua washtaki Tanzania. Sijui hata walikuwa TZ. Wanaita Tizu.
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 Okay.
Alikuwa jaji mkuu Daktari Willy Mutunga, kinara wa PLP Martha Karua washtaki Tanzania. Martha Karua anajulikana kupeleka kesi mingi sana kwa ile East Africa Coastal Justice. But huwa hazifiki mahali. Kwingine, madalali sasa kutoa mali ya mbunge. Koti imeruhusu madalali kuvamia nyumba ya mbunge Jane Kihara. Huyu unajua kwa upande ile ingine ya cousins. Sasa watakipata. Utekaji, mauaji ya vijana yatikisa ndoa ya Raila na Rais Ruto. Visa vya watu kuendelea kutekwa nyara, kupotezwa kwa nguvu na mauaji ya kiholela kunatishia uhusiano kati ya Rais Ruto na Raila Odinga. Na jana Raila Odinga aliwasilisha statement ya kusema hii mambo haifai, it should be investigated. He's been very vocal about the abductions and killings of young Kenyans. Yes. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Daily Nation, police cover-up. Justice lawmakers warn IPOA against short investigations into teachers killing on Sunday. You know, people have been asking, IPOA walikuwa pale kwa press conference together with the complainant.
The complainant, the police IG and IPOA, they are there to hata hawakuangalia waone picha yenyewe ikae mzuri.
Authorities had attempted to blame Albert Ojwang for injuries that caused his death in their custody. But while his tormentors have succeeded in silencing the vocal teacher forever, they could not hide the truth about the cause of his sudden death, brutal torture. With a post-mortem examination finding he was murdered, his killers must now be brought to book. Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat made a complaint against the teacher come blogger. As widow of slain teacher, of course, speaks out. Now they say police cover up as widow of slain teacher speaks out. Tusikia anasema vipi? And she looks so young. Anaitwa Miss Nevinina Onyango at their home in Kokot Village in Homa Bay County. In April this year, Albert Ojwang formally introduced his wife Nevinina Onyango to his family in Kokot Village. The young couple settled in Ojwang Simba, a traditional Luo bachelor's house. Let's see. Tuangalie ndani tuone anasema vipi. He wanted to build for them before thinking of his own house. She's still new here, but has already started taking part in communal activities. So sad.
Very sad indeed.
Other stories here. Fugitive. Police declare singer Samido a deserter and call for his arrest. Mugithi star Samuel Muchoki, popularly known as Samido, who was recently transferred to the anti-stock theft unit by police chiefs, unhappy with his political performances, is in more trouble. Mbona tunamwitanga Mugithi? Sisi tu police officer nani Samido.
No, he's popularly known as a Mugithi singer.
Well, okay. Credit risk, 71,000 defaulters blacklisted as help owed 35 billion shillings. And why cohabiting for long will now be deemed as marriage. Hi. Have you been cohabiting with your partner for over a decade without formalizing the union, only for them to later dismiss your relationship as casual? The court may have your back. That's the reason, page 12.
I think it's changing. Different courts give different things. Kuna wale waliambiwa hata mkikaa sana, if you've not formalized it, you're not married.
You're not married.
Yeah.
Rising levies erode employees' pay slips. Ruto, 1,000 days in office. Workers are pocketing much less monthly pay following the introduction of multiple hefty statutory deductions by the Kenya Kwanza administration. And the deductions have seen the take-home of most employees breaching the Employment Act of 2007, which prohibits employers from deducting more than 2/3 of basic pay. With the rising cost of living and stagnated wages because of hard economic times, families are struggling to meet their expenses.
And this paper continues with their coverage of Ruto at 1,000 days. And it's very unfortunate that as they talk about this, then we're seeing such stories as you mark your 1,000 days in office. Yeah.
On the back page, winning CHAN 2024 and AFCON 2027 bids, a brace of goals worth bragging about. A new 60,000 capacity facility, Talanta Sports City Stadium, is scheduled for completion in December.
In December. Now, December it will be ready by August. Actually, it was supposed to be ready by February. Yeah. Sasa ni December.
Tafika December tena tupush.
Ama ilikuwa ni February next year.
Bas. Next year. Daily Nation.
Ojwang strangled as Raila and MPs demand quick probe. IG Kanja summoned in Parliament. Yes, and at least both the Senate and the National Assembly have summoned the police bosses to go and explain, because surely other members of Parliament, sometimes they are too, I don't know, is it too lazy? Because kazi gani wanafanya? They're the ones who actually vetted some of these people. So when this happens, and a very gruesome picture there of a body inside a body bag, the body of Albert Ojwang at the Nairobi Funeral Home on the front page of this paper. So wacha tuone huko ndani wanasema watapia saa ngapi. The death of Albert Ojwang. Hapa kabla tujue atapia saa ngapi hatujui, but I listened to part of the debate inside the Senate and they said the IG has to appear today to explain directly. Pale juu kuna judge ambaye iPhone yake, laptop which contained judgments and court reports iliibiwa kule Mtwapa. Sasa sijui kutaendaje. Inaitwa Justice Murgor. Pale chini, exposed how counties shun development in favor of staff salaries. Yes, they've basically become employment bureaus. Wanalipa tu salaries naitwaje? Mishahara. And MPs call for audit of NEMIS after systemic flaws show fluctuating learner numbers. Mara numbers inafika 46,000, kidogo a few 100,000, kidogo zinapotea. Na pesa ya capitation huwa inatumika hapo ndo wanapata namba ya capitation.
Well,
Kenya tunakuanga na mchezo.
Mambo ni mengi. People Daily, how Gen Z could be kingmakers in 2027 contest. Of course, wanasema political reawakening. Gen Zs wamekuwa wakihit headlines since June last year. Now they say how Gen Z could be kingmakers in 2027 contest. Hata politicians wenyewe wanaangalia Gen Z. Anything they say, Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Z.
Yesterday I had one of the senators, I think the one from Homa Bay, saying that on June 25th they should hold the anniversary inside Senate of what happened. Wasema hii story ni kama tumeisahau sana, so this time round we should mark officially June 25th.
Na pia Gen Z wenyewe wanataka kuenda huko.
Watawatembelea.
Well, KFS and Friends of Karura battle over millions. People Daily kama they're called the green newspaper. And control of budget says Ruto asked for 48 billion shillings towards Raila AU bid and travel.
Can you imagine that?
48 billion.
She says she only approved 42 billion. But either way, pesa ya capitation hakuna, pesa ya exams pia hakuna, na ilikuwa tu 6 billion shillings.
Yes.
Lakini AU elections, 42 billion.
42 billion.
Go ahead. Priorities, I tell you.
How influencer Ojwang met his cruel death. That story is on page 7. Of course, he was tortured, he was strangled as well. That's the People Daily.
In business, maswala ya G2G fuel deal, 3 Gulf oil giants earn 1.5 trillion, and this is not Ugandan money, Kenyan money. 3 state-owned firms from the Gulf that imported fuel to Kenya on credit earned 1.5 trillion shillings in the 18 months to May as Kenya renewed the contract beyond the 2027 elections. These are Saudi Aramco, Emirates National Oil Company, and Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Endelea pale. Hata wameka handshake na amesema itaendelea mpaka 2028. So muspende hiyo pesa itaenda tu. Britam flooded with 10,000 applications for 200 jobs. Where? They've received 10,000 applications for 200 positions it advertised last year, underlying the scramble for jobs amid mounting unemployment. On the ticker, plastic farms failed to reverse higher tax on products. Elsewhere, state to clear Turkana oil output plan by June 30th. And finally, CBK pushes for lower loan costs in 6th benchmark rate cut. Will it happen? Nakumbuka banks walikuwa wamesema hata mkikata hiyo CBK sisi tuko tu sawa tusongi. Yeah, that's a business daily.
All right, tuangalie caricature. The Star. Ojwang still hitting headlines. Lakini the people here, walikuwa kwa press conference juzi, they say we shall get whoever is behind this. That was
You see how
Inspector General.
The play of words there behind is actually the biggest thing.
In capital.
Damu inatoka huku ndani. Wale watu walikuwa pale nyuma.
Amefichwa.
Wameficha. Ule ni mwingine ule DCI. Masengeli was actually the acting IG at the height of the Gen Z protests. Yes. So we shall get whoever is behind. I think this is the most creative cartoon this morning.
Yes. The Standard.
Same story. Now this is a DCI boss, Amin Mohammed, and he's painting the jail cell red. He's using blood to cover up. Yeah? Pale sema cover up na amepaka tu. Yeah, red.
All right. Daily Nation.
No, this
People
is
Daily.
People Daily.
Ruto at 1,000. Lakini ana sketch chini ya nini hii?
Hapa ni kama inakaa itakuwa ngumu second term kiasi. That is what the cartoonist is suggesting.
Kwenda second term lakini
the second term
atapanda hapo juu.
Ngumu. Staro amesema ni kama itakuwa ngumu. Sio mimi, hiyo ni cartoon. Aha. Cousins finally find their way to the cartoon. Na wanatafutwa kwa giza huko using a candle. Some dark tribal past. But why are we saying it's a tribal past?
See, imekuwa disconnected kwa switch. So maybe it's a thing of the past.
Oh, now sasa tunatumia candle kutafuta cousins.
Yes, to unite people.
No, but they're making a comparison with his previous statements about shares. So ni kama wanasema take cousins ni mbaya.
Really?
Shares, cousins, dark tribal past.
Lakini si they are all cousins. Nilisikia mtu akisema hapa ni uniite cousin utaona.
Hi, Kuzo.
I am not your cousin.
That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation.
All right. After that, State of the Nation.
Yes, we'll be having Didmas Barasa, that's MP Kimilili, Nabina Bwera, MP Lugari, and Joe Nyoto, Senator, Moranga County in studio after the break, in a few minutes actually. Yes.
After that, today's Relationship Wednesday, kama kawaida, we'll be having a very big panel in studio. And your hawa, ladies and gentlemen, my partner is still in talks with their ex. What will you do in that situation? Hey, Sisi huku on Wednesday, Sisi ni relationship expert.
My partner is still in talks with their ex, surely.
Yes.
Sisemi kitu.
Stay with us. Interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at @Ann_Dida and the hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle is at Freddy Ndimuli. See you after the break.
Batman chill out, yeah. Batman chill out.
Timing perfect in your anthem. Leo sapa tunakula mpishi.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Aurora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
In a heart-wrenching plea Tuesday, Albert Ojwang's father, Meshach Ojwang, has asked the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Eliud Lagat, to be truthful on the circumstances that led to the death of his son.
Hii matokeo inatokea kwamba mtoto wangu amekufa kwa majeraha ya kupigwa. Nahitaji unieleze kwa nini ulimuua mtoto wangu. Kupitia kwa sheria ukaseme kwa nini ulimuua mtoto wangu. Alikukosea nini ambayo inagharimu kifo chake?
The ex-influencer was detained over a post that was critical of a DIG Lagat. Albert's father made the plea at the city mortuary after the post-mortem of his son, whose results are inconsistent with the report issued by the National Police Service on Monday, which had indicated that he hit his head against a cell wall while in custody.
Niambiwa ya kwamba mtoto wangu amejigonga kwenye ukuta. Nauliza swali, huku kwenye makwapa pia unaweza kufika kwenye ukuta huko juu kwa kugongwa?
While appealing to President William Ruto to help him get justice for his son, who was a blogger, Meshach narrated how he dedicated his life to Albert's life success.
Habari hizi zinamwendea tunayempenda rais wetu wa nchi hii. Tafadhali mzee wa nchi, tusaidie, nisaidie kama mwananchi anayetoa ushuru pia, na angalia haki kuwatendea wanyonge, sababu boma langu hata ilipigwa picha hata kabla kijana wangu kuondoka. Wakaona kwamba huyu ni mfukara, hawezi kujitetea. Kwa hivyo lolote tunaweza kumfanyia mtoto wake ili kwamba iwe suluhu namna hiyo. Hiyo haibariki, hiyo ni laana.
Stanley Nyerengita, TV47.
Yes, welcome back. Indeed, a very sad story that continues to unravel, and it's what features on most of the front pages today. Police cover-up, that's the big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Tortured, strangled. That's the front page of the Standard. Ojwang strangled as Raila and MPs demand quick probe. These are just some more headlines today. We're privileged to have in studio Nabii Nabwera, MP Lugari constituency. Karibu sana. I don't know your quick sentiments about what's happening, because I'm not even certain what questions should I ask on this one.
Thank you very much. My brother, I want to say three things. Number one, I'm very angry. I'm one of those people that are very angry, and that's why I don't know what to say. Number two, there are people in this country who are living in the past. If you can imagine that in a world where communication is in the people's bedroom, where the buttons of our shirts are tools of communication, then you cannot attempt to cover up a murder as self-inflicted. You are living in the past. Those are things that people tried with the Uko era, and it could not work. And at that time, we were not as sophisticated as we are today. What people do not know, that from Homa Bay to Nairobi, the gadgets of communication all over. The third thing I want to say is that sometimes when something happens and you are on the spot, please take responsibility. Don't wait to be pushed out. It is very disappointing that even the IG is pretending not to know the right thing to do. For God's sake, this guy was arrested. Nobody's talking about the arresting officer. Nobody's talking about whether the county commander of Homa Bay, the OCBD of Homa Bay, the local police station were informed that there are people from Nairobi coming to arrest a person in your jurisdiction, which are standard operating procedures. 2 weeks ago I was here and I told you there are people in the government of President William Samoei working very hard to undo what the president. This is one of them.
And I've seen so many people sharing the same sentiments online that probably this could be an act of sabotage. Do you really believe that that is an issue, that probably there are some senior government officials who are just trying to sabotage this administration?
How do you explain this? How do you explain it?
Yet we've not seen the president come out to issue a statement. Curiously so, even the CS in charge of Interior, till now, has remained silent on a matter of national importance such as this one.
You know, I heard one of them say in Parliament there, and I said this world is going berserk, that a death of one person, you know, trivializing the death of one person. I think where I sit, from the information I have, that the president is very angry. Really, I think this took him by surprise. Especially that the president had openly said such a murders will not happen. And now it doesn't happen by some ordinary people, it is happening in a police station.
It's coming
but it's only that, from where I sit again, is only that 40 days had reached, as said in the Bible. So many people have died in police custody, but not documented.
We'll soon be marking 1 year since the events of June 25th. In fact, I think in the next 2 weeks' time. For this to be happening at this time.
That's why I'm from where I sit, that's why the president is perturbed. I mean, as a member of parliament, why even yesterday I was at pains to participate in the discussion in parliament. It's basic. I'm still not coming to terms knowing what we went through last year, around this time in last year, with the GNZ and the finance bill, that someone can do something like this. That's why I say there are people who are sabotaging government internally.
All right. Allow me to welcome Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, to this conversation. Karibu sana. We're obviously talking about the biggest story, the torture and murder, gruesome murder of Albert Ojwang. And questions are being asked, how blatantly off can these people be? That at such a time, when events of last year were still very fresh, police had been criticized for all this, and then they go ahead and do something like this. What is your feeling about it?
Fred, allow me to first send my deepest condolences to the family of Albert Ojwang, especially his father. We are talking about an only child. And so I can imagine the pain that the family is going through, especially because it was not an accident. It is something that was planned by somebody somewhere. And Fred, regardless of what we say, or before we say anything, the first thing that we must demand, all of us, is that Eliud Lagat, the complainant in this particular case, and the one who obviously ordered the arrest of Albert Ojwang. And I want to believe, like many people are saying, you know, Fred, between the time Ojwang was arrested and the time he was booked at the Central Police Station in Nairobi, it took about 26 hours. And I believe that Lagat had, in his impunity and his ego, demanded that he sees Ojwang, and I want to believe that he actually supervised his torture. Lagat must face the law. And if today, by the close of business today, Eliud Lagat will still be DIG, then we can say that he was acting on behalf of William Ruto. Because this man should be forced to step down, and not only that, be made to face the law. And the officers who handled Ojwang between the time he was arrested in Homa Bay and the time he was booked at at Central Police Station in Nairobi, we should know whom they are. Otherwise, as we speak, those that have been interdicted, I think, are innocent. They just, you know, they just booked in somebody who was already injured.
How did it sit with you to see the main complainant in this case standing next to the police IG?
It was showing, it was disgusting.
Impunity.
It is impunity. He was showing the family and Kenya at large the middle finger. That is what DIG Lagat was doing by attending this particular conference and standing behind the IG. It was showing Kenyans the middle finger, mtadu. As a family, mtadu. As Kenyans, mtadu is a middle finger, impunity. And if DIG Lagat will continue serving in that capacity, then both him and the president must resign. And the other thing, before my friend Nabi comes in, the other person that we demand that he says something stronger than what he said yesterday is Raila Amolo Odinga, whom we have known to have to be a fighter for human rights all his life. Because Raila Odinga cannot continue supporting a government that is perpetrating that kind of violation of human rights. And I was disturbed that Raila Amolo Odinga, in his statement, did not even want to mention the name Eliud Lagat. I mean, we need to see more from ODM, and especially Raila Amolo Odinga, whom I say so many times I have a lot of respect for, because of most of the liberties we enjoy here, even of, expression and of, he has fought for this. Raila Amolo Odinga must condemn this and must demand several things from William Ruto if he must continue working with William Ruto under the bread-based government, because now it is not only bread-based, it's now becoming a blood-based government. Raila Odinga cannot associate himself with such a government.
Bwana Nabi, you wanted to add something?
You know, I'll be very sincere with you. I've talked to some police officers I know, whom I can't disclose their names. Because they work at Central Police Station and they are known to me. And they have been very clear that this fellow came finished. They had even refused to book him in. They had refused.
So
my point here is, my brother, we also must guard against some people being punished as a scapegoat. And I'm saying I would like the statements by the interdicted officers, including the OCS, to be made public. That's the only way we can fight impunity. We cannot use one rogue officer superintending over some rock 3, 4, 10 officers to bastardize police. Right? For example, why would I be bastardizing the police in Homa Bay when they didn't know? And why I have a problem with the Kanja myself, the complainant was his deputy. Kanja should be able to look at the eye of his deputy and tell him, my brother, you are killing all of us as a police force. Not only me, you are killing the CS, you are killing the president. Resign. The least I would have expected from Kanja was, because this guy would be almost slightly senior than the DCI, was for Kanja himself to take the statement. What I want to tell my brother here is you don't understand Raila. I want to tell you today. You have lived with that man, you don't understand him. Raila has spoken. And there is a way Raila speaks when he's faced with a situation like this. And me, I know my party leader. There are two people who have spoken before he wrote his statement. And watch that space.
I see the outrage in you, and I'm aware that even the Senate has summoned the police IG today. But of what consequences will that be? Because we saw even the events of last year were not properly probed by the same houses.
Yeah, we have a problem there, Fred, because as we speak here, and my colleague here may not fully agree with me, or he may, that Parliament has been captured. And that is why, of course, there was what they called, in quotes, reorganization of committees and committee chairs at the beginning of this year. Because, of course, they wanted chairs who are, complacent, chairs who would do what government would want to be done. And, as we speak now, with ODM having joined Kenya Kwanza, then you also look at the numbers. And these numbers are, not just on at the plenary level, they're also in the committees. So anything that is not a pro-government may not be able to pass, because any decision that is made...
Yeah, this outrage is across board. I had maybe members even...
Across board, but I can tell you, although Nabi tells me that I don't understand Raila, but if Raila, maybe I don't, but if Raila and Ruto will still take a common position, it is a position that is going to stand. Because, of course, Raila controls numbers, and both control numbers. So unless, then that's why I started by saying, unless now Raila, divorces himself from especially this particular violation of human rights, if he still continues, serving with Ruto and supporting the programs by Ruto. Of course, when we talk about programs, they're not just development programs. They should, all the programs, then of course we Kenyans will be disappointed at the end of the day. Parliament may not be able to do much. That's why I'm saying, if Raila detaches himself and disowns, especially this particular act, then of course justice will be served. But if Raila gets compromised by Ruto, no justice will be served. And that is exactly what I meant. Nabi, you'll get your time, don't worry. That's exactly what I meant. That with Raila, Fred, you can see what Ruto is doing. And when you want to aim your ammunition at Ruto, because of the evils that his government is, perpetrating, then Raila comes and covers him. And you do not want to aim at Raila, because he's somebody who is known for his fight for human rights. And that is the problem that I was trying to describe. I may not have used the words that Nabi may have maybe expected me to use. But I also want to respond to my friend again. You know, he said in his submission that IG Kanja should have taken action against DIG Lagat. And you know, the other day, Rigiji said that there is a naval axis. Ruto, Murkomen, Lagat, long before this thing happened. And then Rigiji talked about and some 20 Kalenjin officers, you know, who are perpetrating now abductions and killings. I don't know how true it is, but what I'm trying to say is Kanja could be IG, but he's powerless. Because if Lagat is under the cover or enjoys the protection of the president himself and the CS for Interior, then there is very little that Kanja can do. In fact, I suspect that Kanja mentioned that Lagat was the complainant in this case because he wanted, because I know today, had Kanja not done that, people like Arun Cheruiyot, my majority leader, you saw what he did when there were those killings in Murodi Kill. That IG, what happened to your officers? IG, what will you be remembered for? I think Kanja wanted to shed off and to tell people, come on, before you bash me, this is your man. Arun Cheruiyot, it is your man that did this. So before you start bashing me, bash your man. And you can see Arun Cheruiyot has not said anything about Lagat. He has not mentioned him. Had he not, it would be, you know, those rhetorical questions. IG,
let's take a short break. Yes, thank you, Senator. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue this discussion because now the discussion moves to Parliament. Will it be of any consequence? Morning Cafe continues.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred in the We continue looking at this main story about the slain teacher turned blogger Albert Ojwang, which features on most of the front pages. And I'm still in studio with Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, and Nabina Bwera, MP Lugari constituency. Same question I asked him.
I just want to say something. Following the comments by Senator, you know, this is one of the senators I admire in terms of political posture and analysis. But I want to tell him, from the behavior, the body language, and the behavior of the president, given that he himself has been abused impossibly, and he has done nothing about it. I know boys who walk even around here, even senior people in government, even some of us in parliament, who have abused Ruto. I mean, called him all sorts of, he hasn't killed them. So one thing I want to disabuse is that the president would condone killing of a child or a Kenyan simply because he has written a post. Because he himself, on daily, you have seen even caricatures of him in a coffin, haven't you? Mm-hmm. But he has actually made fun out of it. Eh? You called him something, chapati, he said, I'm that, it's okay. I mean, so from where I sit, there is no evidence. I cannot say he would approve this kind of thing. My party leader, and I can tell you, Indumuli, from where I sit. Now I'm speaking as an ODM person, an insider. My party leader is angry. But again, look at where we are. Heading to 25th. Eh? His action from where he sits as a statesman is measured. And I understand why. But behind the scenes, what he has done is impossible. Now, let's see what happens in the next 2 days. Not even 2 days, today. Just today, in the next 12 hours. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because now even the president is seized with the matter. Clear, the public have given their position. Number one. Number two, evidence is available. Including the IG has said, look, the complainant is this one. Isn't it? Number three, if by end of the day today there's nobody charged, because you cannot charge the OCS, for God's sake. That guy was the sentry. Umeletewa thug. You don't know what they said. You have to read the OB. They may have said something. We have gotten this fellow. What would he do? The only offense, I would see the OCS being charged with is admitting a person who is injured instead of taking that person to hospital. Mm-hmm. But then, what if the injuries were internal? By the time they're exhibiting, the fellow is dying, isn't it? So, who is supposed to be charged in court today? Today, is that person who picked this young man, number one. So this person will say, I was sent by Ruto. So Ruto is taken to be charged. A conspiracy to murder.
Yet we saw the events of last year without consequence.
Because if you were to charge police, OCS, send remand, the officer, that case will go nowhere because the judges will find them innocent. Then that would be a cover-up.
What
would you be charging them of?
The issue is we saw what police did last year without any consequence. How sure are you that this time around there will be any consequence? After all, we saw the main complainant, the police boss, IG, and the IPOA boss addressing the country at the same time. How sure are we that this time around something will actually happen?
Let me tell you. There are two other agencies that must take over this matter. In fact, for me, Ruto, us in Parliament, we should be asking the DPP to take over this matter. Yes, and direct what needs to be done. Number two, we should be asking the institution of the presidency, because the IG, the deputy IGs are his appointees.
But the senator raised a very serious issue, that the politics in Parliament right now may not allow for proper...
No, this one we are all united.
Are you certain that this time?
We are all united. Just the way you have seen in the public out here. We are all united. Nobody can condone this because it can happen to you. I can be picked with a traffic offense and I will die in the police.
Last year you are not united. Last year during the Gen Z protest.
Last year the politics was different. This young man has united the country. Ask him. The death of this young man has united Kenya. You don't see yourself as a political grouping. How?
Do you agree that things have changed, Senator? Because the main concern has been how Parliament has conducted itself, and both houses, that they've been very reluctant to probe direct, glaring accusations of police brutality for over a year. Yet Parliament has done nothing tangible about it.
Before I get to that, Fred, allow me to comment about something that Nabi said, that Ruto has been insulted and has been very tolerant about this. Of course, I agree with him partly, but Ruto is not as tolerant as his predecessors. And I want to say this because when there were those, caricatures of him being laid in a coffin, he got very affected, and everybody could see, and that is when abductions actually got to their height, because he was talking about this all the time, and his people close to him, you cannot do this, you are doing this. I don't know. He used to hide and behind, parents have to teach good morals to their children. So I think I would want to see a more tolerant Ruto, like President Uhuru Kenyatta did. You remember when Emilio Odhiambo insulted Uhuru directly and saying that Uhuru is the most stupid person that she had ever seen. If you can remember, Uhuru Kenyatta sent Millie Odhiambo flowers on her birthday that came, I think, about 2-3 days later. And I think Ruto may not be as tolerant as his predecessors, like I've said. I also want to take this issue that Nabi is talking about. Raila is angry, and I don't know Raila. Probably I don't know him. I've never associated with him very closely, but I've followed his politics for many years. The question will be, if Raila is angry, as one of his party members seated here is claiming, will he still continue associating with this government after this particular incident of the death of Ojwang? And I want to agree with Nabi that the country is united. There is no political side on this particular matter. All of us are united that justice must be delivered, not only to the late Ojwang and his family, but also to all the other youths who have died mysteriously after abductions and that kind of thing. But we are united. But the biggest question for me is, will Raila still continue associating with somebody who is perpetrating the acts that he has always fought against all his life? That is the biggest question for me. And I want to agree completely with Nabi that the OCS at Central Police Station, the officers who are on duty, these are innocent people. This crime was perpetrated, and I think even those that investigate should concentrate and narrow in on the 26 hours between the time Ojwang was arrested and the time there was the first OB entry in Central Police Station in Nairobi. That is the critical time. We want to know who the officers who arrested him, they were 6 according to the father, who are they? Where did they take Ojwang? Who transported Ojwang from Homa Bay to Nairobi? Where were they with Ojwang for these 26 hours? Because that is when this crime was perpetrated. Otherwise, the issue of interdicting officers in Nairobi Police Station, in Nairobi Central Police Station, that is, neither here nor there. Let the real perpetrators be brought to book. But now, coming to your question about that Parliament has not been able to do anything much. especially about these abductions. You know, Fred, the bread-based government was formed immediately after the June 25 protests of last year. And this is what has been a problem. Because when these two, formations came together, then, and I had told you about the numbers, anything, even in a committee, of course, if we make up a resolution, we have to approve of it. And of course, the majority will have to
But on this one, you agree that...
yes, but remember there is a rider that I gave you. I told you, on this one, we will agree and we will be able, the committees in Parliament and the Parliament in general will be able to deliver justice for Ojwang if and only if Raila remains on the side of the people and not on the side of Ruto. Mark that. Because if after some time, the heat generated, of course, will cool down after some time before these investigations and what have you have been done. If everything cools down, and that's why I keep insisting, we must know whether Raila will continue associating with this government. If they take a common stand with Ruto, I tell you, justice for Ojwang will not be delivered by Parliament. It will only be dependent on Raila remaining on the side of the people and not on the side of Ruto. Because as it is now, he has been on the side of Ruto since June 25 last year. So Raila must go back to the Raila we know, the Raila who has been on the side of the people. That way, justice for Ojwang and all the other victims will be delivered. Without that,
what I don't agree with Ruto is wanting to make this issue a Raila issue. And Ruto, I want to tell you today, who said that Raila must be the one cleaning all the dirty linen of this country? We all have a responsibility. When it suits us, we want to call on Raila. When it doesn't suit us, we don't call on Raila. I think that is the double speak in this country that I cannot condone. That's number one. Number two, I would want you to respond to this. If we live here this morning and the president has sacked Lagat, what will he say? Because the presentation of senator is as if the president has approved the murder. We haven't even heard him, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We don't know what he's thinking, isn't it? Number two, we want to use Ojwang's case as the parameter to measure Raila's commitment to ideals of a just society. I say no. I say no. And you too, I have said this to you before and I want to tell you today. I've been in this country, I first was arrested when I was a student at the university. Incarcerated for seven days. With this guy, you always see Maneno Mugabe and others, 7 of us. I first met Raila when he asked this Wetangula, Muite, 14 lawyers to come and help us out. Let me tell you something. If Raila did not act the way he acted, I was one of those who was very angry, that he's asking us to tone down and get the country. I even had the first, and I hope will be the last, verbal exchange with him in a funeral in Butere. But later on when I reflected and I said, okay, assuming we let it go, what would have happened? Assuming Raila didn't intervene, what would have happened? So sometimes tougher decisions are taken to preserve a nation state. For that particular decision, after June 25, which I didn't approve at that time, I now approve it. And I'll tell you why I approve it. Today, I've never told you this. Assuming the deputy president of the Republican then was the person to take over, there would be no country today. Fact. Because of what? Polarization. A polarized state cannot withstand challenge. The game plan. Okay, what was the end game? Any plan without an end game leads you to nowhere.
And what is the end game?
Yes, that's why I'm telling you there was no end game in that. And that is why Raila intervened. He said, we are going to lose a country. Can we lose it? No. Let's preserve a country and have another day to fight over this thing. So we cannot use this Ojwang's issue to bastardize him. I've told you, and I repeat in Dumuli, next week Wednesday I'll be here. I've told you, give it today and tomorrow. I know my party leader inside out. By the moment he came out yesterday, I know the things he has done before. By the moment you see Osozi giving a statement signed as the deputy party leader, and you saw the demand.
Funny thing is that
you saw the demand.
You also sound like you have too much pressure or too much belief in what Raila should or should not do. My question has always been on what role our parliamentarians do. That
should be the question now. Yes. Because we are all depending on Raila. You see, he's an ordinary citizen. Mlikata kumpatia kura. Wachane na mzee. Can we deal with this thing? Those of us who are on the stage. Can Parliament deal with this thing? As we have a session to talk about it, we'll deal with it.
Do you have faith that it will be
on this one we are united? I've been in that Parliament for 2.5 years. When I know things where people are, this is like NGCDF. The members in National Assembly are together like this. Even those from Rift Valley do not condone this. I'm telling you today. They are not happy.
All right.
Because, Omani, I've told you, tomorrow you will hit Newton's car here. A policeman will take you to Mudaika police station. And because this one died and if nothing happens, you will die there. What will happen to you? None of us here, even him and me, none of us, we are in the political field there. Somebody will throw a stone at you, you will tell your people to arrest you, they will come and arrest you. You will go to the nearest police station, they will kill you. If we don't take action on this one, we will be in trouble.
All right. This has moved to Parliament, to both houses of Parliament. Senate has summoned the police IG and a few other
and by the way,
including the IPOA boss.
In Dominion, I want to say something.
Today, yes.
I want to thank Senate. By the way, I want to thank Senate. They took up a role. They want to slay this puzzle.
National Assembly has been a bit reluctant.
Today.
Yes. The National Assembly has given time, I had this speaker said 30 minutes just to discuss the matter. Do you think that is sufficient to discuss such a matter?
Let me tell you, what was in that house, everybody wanted to speak. What was the speaker trying to do? To give direction to the committee, which we are expecting to report. Because he gave directives of the things he wanted done. And we want those things done. We deal with those things.
The National Assembly right now will start dealing with the budget appropriation.
Of course, it's
starting tomorrow, yes. Do you think they have enough time to focus on this, or should we now depend fully on the Senate?
No, we'll create time.
For this one.
For this one, this is a matter of national importance. A matter of national importance supersedes any other issue. Yeah.
Okay. Listening to one of your colleagues, and I think he's a senator from Homa Bay, He acknowledged the fact that even Senate did not deal properly with the events of last June 25th and even suggested that this year the Senate should do a special anniversary on June 25th, for 25th of June. Do you agree with that?
Yes, allow me again to say something about what Nabi has presented. One, and Nabi, you can watch all my appearances. I can never ever bastardize Raila Amolo Odinga. I can never ever do that. And I keep saying that I do recognize that the freedoms that we enjoy today, you know, are directly, are directly, you know, attributable to Raila Amolo Odinga. I can never ever belittle or bastardize, or even use like Nabi here is saying, use the death of Ojwang maybe to whip emotions politically, or to show that Raila is not performing. Nabi must not lose the context in which I had mentioned the name of Raila several times. It was in response to your question whether Parliament will be able to deliver justice for the family. And my submission was that it will only be possible if Raila does not get compromised by Ruto and his government. That is where Raila was coming in. And that is when I said again that we will want to see, we'll only judge Raila's anger by the virtue of whether he will continue associating with this government the way he's doing now. So I had no intention, and I say it so many times, to show any disrespect or to bastardize Raila Amolo Odinga. This is one man. I've never voted for him, I want to admit, but this is one man I can never ever insult or bastardize or even, you know, paint in negative light. The only problem that I have with him currently is that, you know, he acts as a human shield to Ruto when Ruto is and his government are perpetrating a violation of human rights. Then when you want to, you know, to aim at Ruto, and I had said that, then Raila acts as his human shield. That is the only problem I have with Raila at the moment. Okay. Otherwise, I do not have any other problem. Now, coming to the question as to whether I agree with my colleague, whether we should do something even you know, more tangible this particular year, and whether you can have a day to commemorate the use of last year. I think if it comes, for me, it will be welcome. And you know, yesterday, and you have asked a very important question, Fred, whether 30 minutes can be is sufficient to discuss such a matter. Yesterday, I tried in vain to move a motion of adjournment in the Senate, so that because I felt, and I argued with the Speaker, although he didn't buy my argument, that we needed to more time to talk about this particular matter. But then because the Senator for Migori had raised a statement on the same matter, so the Speaker advised me that, you know, let us do our comments on the statement, because why I prefer a statement and not a motion of adjournment is, according to the Speaker, and I thought it was also wisdom, is that after a statement, a statement is read, it will be referred to the relevant committee, in this particular case, the National Security Committee, where, apart from just expressing our rage, we'll also be able to take action. And I asked the Speaker, can we do both? Yeah. So the Speaker told me that it was not possible to do both. Besides, he would only be able to adjourn the Senate to discuss this particular matter at around 5:30, when the numbers maybe would have reduced. And I agreed with him. So I agree with you that this is a matter that calls for adjournment of both houses to continue discussing this matter today. There cannot be any more important business for both houses of Parliament than the matter of the death of Ojwang and the many other youths that have been killed. And I must say that if if you do not want people to write negatively about you, you do not want people to comment about you, then you have no business being in a public office. And that is what Lagat should know, and any other person. And I agree with Nabi here. I mean, we cannot make police officers, senior or junior, so big that they can, that we allow them to misuse the power that has been given to them. The power, for example, to arrest, the power to carry and use firearms, so that when you comment about a police officer, then you are like you have commented against God. We cannot allow, and that's why action should be taken against Lagat, so that any other police officer or anybody in authority does not ever even contemplate using their power to violate human rights. And we must say that all eyes are on the president today. Right. And even as Nabi here says that we have not given the president time, at least we would have been happy to see him at least offering a message of condolence to the family and promising that appropriate action will be taken in time. The president has not uttered a word.
Even
so Murkomen has not uttered a word. And that is why when we talk about an evil axis, Ruto, Murkomen, Lagat, and some 20 Kalenjin officers, as alleged by Rigiji, then it becomes a very convincing argument that there's something like that. Because Murkomen also, imagine, the Minister for Interior, has not commented about this matter. So the impunity with Lagat and any other police officer or anybody in a position of authority, this is Kenya. This is not Tanzania, sorry to say so, right, where you cannot make a comment about a particular person without you facing abduction and arrest.
I think it's time for us to take another break.
Just a minute before
yes.
we go to break. In Umuli, this country, we must differentiate between issues of political nature and issues of quasi-criminal nature. The mistake we can do with this case is to politicize it. Mm-hmm. The moment we politicize it, even that police officer, that OCS will be punished and will be told that is the one who was found what? Culpable. We must demand for criminal justice system to work. I would want us to divorce politics from this and deal with it from a criminal perspective. Number two, the easier option for me and you two is for us to all agree and request our respective speakers and our colleagues that can we have a joint parliamentary commission to deal with this issue. Why am I going that direction? So that we only don't restrict it to Ojwang. Because even those other ones who lost, they were asking, now you mean Ojwang is more human.
What about IPOA, which is already being spending some budgetary allocation? Are we saying that we've lost confidence totally in that authority?
Indumuli, you cannot ask us here that what are you doing as parliament when we tell you what is workable for us, what we are in control. Again, you want to refer me to another institution. The moment you are saying Parliament has to take over this matter, it means the public has issues with the institutions that are supposed to deal with it. Okay. And by the way, Parliament can help reinstitutionalize those institutions. In Umuli, this country will be a failed state if we lose trust in all the institutions. I can tell you. You lose trust in the judiciary, you lose trust in executive, you lose trust in parliament. So where do we go?
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we switch gears at least and talk about something else that the Daily Nation has been doing this entire week, and is looking at Ruto's 1,000 days as president. That after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. Something that the Daily Nation has been doing for the past few days is looking at William Ruto's 1,000 days in office and just doing an analysis. I look at on the front page, at least, even with the story about Albert Ojwang, there's still front space for this. One headline here reads, rising levies erode employees' pay slips. These are just some of the headlines with regard to Ruto's 1,000 days. Another one on matters diplomacy. Kenya under Ruto, from a peacemaker to a meddler. Yes, and I think there's one more, yes. How rising levies have eroded pay slips of Kenyan employees in this continued series. It is also part of the stories being covered here at TV47. Let's watch it.
In 2022, President William Ruto was elected on a populist hustler versus dynasty platform, promising to create jobs for millions of people and provide economic inclusion for Kenyans at the bottom of the pyramid. However, 2 years later, the once popular presidential candidate who came bearing bags full of promises has seen a decline in popularity due to unfulfilled pledges.
There are 1,000 days of people's determination to move on. There are 1,000 days of the public discontent with what is happening and great desire to lift the country from underdevelopment. So it's a mixed period in our history.
According to political pundits, public discontent has grown due to missed targets, controversial tax measures, and increasing financial pressure on households.
They started by assuming that you can tax people into prosperity. It doesn't work. You cannot tax people into prosperity. You get people producing into prosperity. They create wealth.
During his first year in office, the opposition led by ODM leader Raila Odinga mobilized public protest against the country's growing tax burden, leading to deadly demonstrations across the country.
When you are elected with a leadership that has a clear idea of what it wants, and you are not part of that idea, then judging your achievement is basically like trying to count drops of water.
The Social Health Insurance Fund SHIF has been a difficult replacement for the National Health Insurance Fund NHIF. For instance, the monthly contributions for individuals earning 100,000 shillings have grown from 1,700 shillings to 2,700 shillings, indicating a significant increase in contributions.
Akuwe mwaminifu katika kutimiza.
In order to finance his affordable housing pet project initiative, the head of state imposed a 1.5% housing charge on employers and employees, with the initial goal of 250,000 units per year, later changed to 200,000 units.
It's absolutely amazing. Over 150,000 houses have now been constructed across the country, and over 250,000 jobs have been created. We've been able also to employ over 76,000 teachers. We're just about to employ another 24,000 by January. We've just been able to employ another prison warders, 2,000. The next month we're employing another 10,000 policemen.
The Kenya Kwanza government has, however, been censured following increasing cases of abductions, occasioned by a move to oppose high taxation and bad governance.
This is an attempt to intimidate the public, to ensure that the Gen Zs and the younger generation stop agitating for whatever they are agitating, particularly the idea of, basically getting the government out of power.
While defending his time in office, President William Ruto firmly declared that he can account for every single day of his presidency, as he assured Kenyans that the economy has fully recovered.
Kuunganisha watu wote, mandugu, cousins, majirani, maadui.
According to Ruto, at the time he got into office, the shilling was 167 shillings to the US dollar, as foreign exchange reserves could hardly cover 2.5 months' worth of imports, when inflation was high at 9%.
Inchi inabadilishwa na maamuzi. Decisions are the ones which change a nation.
He claimed that the nation's economy is currently among the fastest growing in the world, proving that Kenya Kwanza's efforts have paid off. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, 1,000 days later, the president insists the economy is doing much better, yet 75% of Kenyans, according to a TIFA poll, insist the country is headed in the wrong direction. Senator, it would appear we are even more fragmented 1,000 days later. Has it ever been this bad in any other administration that you know of, that 1,000 days is way past the halfway mark for any president in a single term?
Well, mine is a big no. We have not seen a worse regime. You may compare President Moi's regime to President Ruto's regime to some extent, but I think Moi, in his later years, of course I do not know about his early years, of course due to the time he took over when President Kenyatta died, but in his later years, of course he was a little tolerant, more tolerant than Ruto, because, and why I say that is, if you look at President Ruto, his intolerance is at another level. And Nabi will agree with me on this one. That even us, every politician, when they are elected, there are people who are they are pillars in quotes. No other politician is known to have, kicked out all his pillars I mean, even we, in our small ways within a bit here, I mean, you may disagree with one or two people who supported you, especially because sometimes you're not able to meet their expectations and they may not understand. But President Ruto's intolerance of his supporters is at another level. If you look at the people who've supported him, talk of Rigathi Gachagua, talk of Moses Kuria, talk of Mithika Linturi, talk of Justin Muturi lately, talk of...
Do you think that has been his biggest failure?
No. I'm just telling you one of the things. You know, you asked me about, you know, to compare him with some of his, with his predecessors. Ndindi Nyoro, all these people. Nobody, no politician, not even an MCA, has been intolerant to the level at which Ruto has been intolerant of those who supported him so dearly. This is somebody who cannot tolerate the church, and you know he also used the church to a great extent to get to power. So I think for Ruto, it's a rule. I think he only read the rule in the 48 laws of power. He only read the one that says those who make you king must be dispensed with. He does not know how to balance that. And why I think his administration is so miserable is because at every sphere, look at the economy. And now you're saying that he's claiming that the economy is doing much better. What are the indicators of an economy that is performing, Fred? I mean, it's money in people's pockets. I mean, consumption, which in turn leads to even more growth in the economy, because as people, you know, consume, they spend money. The money circulates in the economy. I mean, because we live here, would you, have we had an administration before Ruto where, you know, money circulation was so low? I mean, where even selling property is becoming a nightmare, where, you know, default in terms of repayment of loans is at the highest. You look at his diplomacy, for example. I mean, you have not had a president associating with known criminals. I mean, talk of Hemedi, talk of the situation in DRC, where the president takes sides. I mean, careless foreign policy. I mean, look at his careless utterance about with the war between Palestine and Israel. I mean, he has messed diplomacy completely. You look at the problems we are having with funding education. We are now being told that the budget has been drastically reduced for education in the finance bill. I mean, and we know the problems that we have with education that have something that has never been seen before. No other president has ever invaded payslips the way Ruto has invaded payslips. And look at the housing levy, for example, and I've had opportunity to look at it and think about it. It should have been a housing fund, not a levy, because when you call it a levy, it's a tax. But if it were going to be a fund, it would operate largely like NSSF, where then his argument that you can still get back your money, because that was, remember that was his argument when he was promoting the idea of affordable housing. He was saying that you contribute and you can get this money later on if you want it. I mean, but then when it came to this law, it was not passed as housing fund. It was passed as a housing levy. A levy is a tax. You cannot claim, you cannot recollect taxes that you paid. Look at his fight with churches. I mean, I've not seen any other president. President Moi, bad as he was painted. You know, it's not right for Africans to talk ill of somebody who is already, deceased. But Moi respected the church. Moi had a good relationship with the church. But for Ruto, he actually used the church, and he knew he was using the church. Once the church, helped him get power, then he showed the church the middle finger. So if you ask me, President Ruto's administration is miserable because of, I mean, poor mismanagement of the economy, poor diplomacy, intolerance. And now, by the way, I've heard that clip where he's saying that he's uniting everybody, including cousins. And I want to thank him for following Rigathi Gachagua's politics all the time. When you hear him saying he's uniting even cousins, it's because Rigathi Gachagua has brought a new meaning to this word cousins again. And I thank President Ruto, and we know, those of us in that camp, we know that once we start a function with the Rigathi Gachagua, Ruto stops everything to watch what Rigathi Gachagua is doing. And let me just conclude. And I want to thank him for that. But who is that? Who claims that he is uniting people while he is breaking his own family? While he has kicked out his first wife and all the children, and then he runs to the neighbor and tells the neighbor, I want to unite everybody, brothers, cousins, while he has broken his family. President Ruto has no more authority to talk about unity.
Are we not being too harsh on the president?
Indumuli, it's very difficult to debate with a child who has gone with the mother and left the father. New to hear is a child who has gone with the mother called Rigathi and left the father called Ruto. Now, what he has not done is to understand why the father and mother were fighting in the bedroom, because he was not there in the bedroom. That is a very important thing to note. When your father and mother fight, please keep off, so that at one point, father will reclaim you. That's not my point.
Are we being too harsh on President Ruto in his first one?
Yes, I want to speak very candidly. And I'm going to speak from three perspectives: economics, social, and political. On the side of social, President Ruto has done very well, by the way, on that area. For the first time since this country started, the social protection money reaches on time to all those people who have been profiled, and they even added more last year. Health sector, this is an area I want to give him a plus. We have attempted and run away from universal health care 5 times. He said, can we face it? We've been having challenges, but as we go on, my own niece had a very serious problem of, he was draining all of us because he had 12 sessions of chemotherapy at Moi Referral. Very expensive. Do you know what? We moved away from paying 780,000 to paying as family 126. The rest done by the universal health system. So in that area, we still have challenge, but the challenge is not at that level. The challenge is the county level, level 2 and level 3 hospitals on facility and medicines and all that. The biggest problem I find is in education sector. And I've spoken about this. We are not providing enough funds in the education sector. There are 3 things here. At the primary and secondary level, because of the numbers increasing, instead of increasing the money, we remained with the allocation we used to have. So instead of the money that was guaranteeing free education, the money has shrunk. Instead of giving the schools 22,000, it has come to as low as 14 secondary.
Per child.
Per child. Instead of giving the secondary, the primary 1,420, it has shrunk to less than 1,000 because of the numbers. And that is why I've always advocated for making education have 1 trillion shillings. And people have said I'm mad. I'm not mad. If you want to power this economy, you must stop looking at education as a social factor. You look at it as an engine of development, an economic empowerment. Then you must give it more money. Now, housing. There are 2 things I want to look at, 2 perspectives of looking at housing. Number 1, from a social perspective, yes, we are improving the housing system. When I saw the people move from slums to those housing, when I see what's going to happen in Kakamega, the people are balloting for the houses in Kakamega. When I see the people are balloting for the houses in Nakuru, which are ready, then I say that is a step forward. Moving away from a shanty to a one, even if it is a studio with water, with electricity, and social amenities, that's an improvement. The difficulty in housing is what my brother has pointed out. Did we need a levy or we needed a fund? So that even me, who is contributing and have my own housing arrangement, yes, I could have supported, but when it has taken off, I can go back and say, me, I don't need to buy a house, give me back my money. And I think as we have put up a big debate, including my party leader, that we have told Mbadi he must think of turning this thing from a levy to a fund. That is the way to go. Now, the biggest problem in this country that is disturbing my president is the politics of the country. The political dynamics, I don't want to pick the problem between him and his departed wife.
But that seems to be the biggest problem. That
just
problems within UDA were the biggest.
I don't want to pick that. I want to look at the bigger picture. Kenya is beyond UDA. My brother. Let's not be buried in this UDA fight. Kenya is beyond UDA. I don't belong to UDA.
He does belong to UDA.
Yeah, but that does not mean that if he's not breathing, I'm not breathing. We need a system where it's accommodative to all of us. A system, and that is why I've been saying the winner takes it all political arrangement is a nightmare. You know, what is it that the president and his deputy disagreed on? I don't want to go that. What made me, Nabina Bwera, participate in the action to remove the deputy president from his seat is basically one thing, that he advocated for politics where I cannot get anything because we lost in the election. But I'm paying tax. I'm paying tax. How do you say I cannot get anything and I'm paying tax?
You said that was not the biggest problem, but then you keep on coming back to this.
No, I'm saying I did not want to dwell on a family issue. I want to dwell on principle. And the principle is inclusivity. How are we doing on the foreign policy? We have a problem. Yes. And for me here, despite the fact that I have one from my own backyard, I think the problem is the president has not gotten the right people in the ministry. From the PS, you know, he has to do a bit of shopping. It is not Moi who shaped the foreign policy of this country. It was John Robert Oko. fact. We must get it right at that point. I've always told people, how come Murkomen was struggling at the roads? How come Chirichiri seems to be getting it right?
Okay.
It is the manpower.
So how would you rate him in his first 1,000?
No,
I'm on a scale of 1 to 10 because of time.
I'm here to talk about one critical thing: economics. Economics.
I can see we only have about 3 minutes to go.
The GDP has expanded, correct, 4.5 from World Bank statistics. But the problem is because the middle class is overpaying tax, there are no savings. When a country has no savings, it ends into the problems we have. But please remember, he inherited a problem. That one I must tell you. At the time we were taking over this country, he was taking over the country in 2022. What was the inflation rate?
Is he the one president who has inherited the biggest problem? Some may argue why Kibaki.
I can only compare. Kibaki inherited a hole. We were in similar situation in 2002.
In his first 1,000 days?
In a similar situation. In the first 1,000 days, I give him a C.
Kibaki?
No, Kibaki in his first 1,000 days, he was on a B+. Yeah.
So,
but please remember, he enjoyed two things that this president does not enjoy. He enjoyed monolithic decision making. President Ruto does not enjoy monolithic decision making because of the change of the constitution.
Yet he has super control over both houses of parliament.
Neither here.
And I want to give him because
it is neither here nor
a parting shot now because
are you aware President Kibaki ruled this country with a minority of members of parliament? What did he do?
But he still managed to do.
But do you know what he did? Yeah, he went and picked everybody else, including those who were in Raila's party.
He did it better.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's not Ruto who is doing
please
it
allow
alone.
me.
Even Kibaki went and raided.
Parting shot. We only have about.
In short, you know, Broody.
Including Okot. What was his name? This guy who died. The Assistant Minister for Internal Security, Ochode, including Ochode.
Okay.
He went and raided.
So allow me to, he has called me a child who went with the mother when they divorced. It's in a light touch. Of course, yes. I want to tell. Nabi comes from a community where the child does not go with the mother, where there is a difference.
Yes, he can.
Yes, so because I come from a community where children sometimes follow the mother, let me tell him that when a divorce happens, the mother shares with the children what used to happen in the bedroom. So we are aware, and Rigiji has said many things about what used to happen in the bedroom. He was told to lie, he was told to invite Hemedi, he refused, he was told to of course, do dirty things, he refused, and those are the problems that are happening in that particular bedroom. But I want to remind Nabi that I did not talk only of Rigiji. I mentioned very many other people, but of course it suits the argument. It suits the argument of ODM that it is only Rigiji who has a problem with Ruto. I gave a list of many other people who helped Ruto and whom he threw out. So it's not just about Rigiji. And I was waiting for him to comment on a person who is thankless and a person who kicks out all his supporters once he gets to office. Nabi avoided that completely. Please, it's my time. Let me finish. Let me finish, please. I want to correct this. I want to correct this notion.
We only have 60 seconds.
Yes, I want to correct this notion that Rigathi Gachagua, by his shares issue, was advocating for exclusion. He explained it so many times. What he said is, as you as the president gives positions, that he should first consider those who believed in his manifesto and who believed in him, and the others then be taken on board. Nobody can, in this country, talk about excluding others because, I mean, we are one country. And finally, I mean, we need to think about this inclusivity. Important as it is, we need then to redefine the importance, how and why we should have elections. Because if after elections, then of course we have number two coming on board and forming government, then we need to make it a policy so that we say that number two, for example, will be the one who will take up the position, for example, of deputy president, so that then we have a policy. Otherwise, as it is, the many hardships that we have seen happening have been illegitimate, and although they have helped heal the country in some instances. And still, I want to thank Raila for what he has been a nationalist, by the way. He has always stepped in to save a country where the country seemed to be in the threat of getting disintegrated. But I want to say, Fred, that with this particular hardship that he has made, this one he made with the wrong number. Ruto is the wrong number, and this Ruto will be Raila's Waterloo in the fullness of time. And I know I'll be vindicated with time.
Thank you very much, Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, and Abina Bora, MP Lugari.
You have not given me
unfortunately.
Again, you are
my director. Do I have a minute? Okay.
Moves from you to you now.
We have 60 seconds, Ubara Nabora.
I want to say this. I want to assure the country that first, all of us must be submissive to the Constitution. And number two, that Kenya is bigger than any one of us. We cannot eat politics all the time. We must have time to work. It is so unfortunate that this country, for the last 1.5 years, we've spent politicking and not being productive. And you can see the economy requires fixing. And we cannot fix it by being divided. I also want to remind those who are advocating for cousin, I cannot be your cousin simply because you are looking for power. I need to have been your cousin before you started looking for power.
Asante sana Nabila Bwera, MP Lugari constituency, and Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga. Speaking of cousins.
A cousin to Nabi.
The big headlines today, of course, police cover-up. That's a big one on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ojwang strangled as Raila and MPs demand quick probe. And on the Standard, tortured, strangled. Of course, the story of Albert Ojwang. After the break, we switch gears, talk matters, relationships. Matters, are you dating someone who's still talking to their ex? That's the question we'll be discussing after the break. We're not discussing cousins, though. It's exes who you're currently dating. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Enjoy your morning.